let's talk a little bit more about Art Robertson. What you will find, and this is sad because he's so much the opposite way, maybe by being so traditionalist and dogmatic, he sort of created the opposite way. You know, that sort of philosophy, like the more you strive for the light, the more darkness you create, that kind of dualism. Well, in a way, everything that you'll, I won't say everything, but a lot of what you'll encounter out there in terms of weird Reiki practices has its roots back with Arthur Robertson somewhere. And it's weird, you know. I mean, talk about the strangest source for it to come to. When I mean, there are, you know, a lot of just airy-fairy people out there doing all kinds of weird, you know. You think it would come from them, you know, but it doesn't. One of the things that we're going to talk about real quick is the Antakarana. Now, William Rand has a handout that you're all free to read, and if you want a copy of the symbols, just make a note and we'll add it to your bill. Where he has come up with a simple kind of explanation of where the Antakarana came from and what it's good for, and kind of master missionary person. Well, most of it he got from, well, I won't say most, but a lot of it he got from, you know, some of the stuff that's on like Alice Bailey, and other stuff he got from from the Robertson material and things like that. Arthur Robertson, when you speak to him, will say, there are few greater evils in the world than a Xerox black and white Antakarana. And, you know, I go through this huge dichotomy of, you know, is it a money thing because he's selling the color? But again, you know, he doesn't, you know, you send him the picture, he'll do it for free. So, you know, it's one of those huge questions in my mind that I don't know what to think. One of the interesting things is that he mentioned that a certain amount of great damage can be done by being photographed with the Antakarana. And I thought that was very interesting. By being photographed in the same picture as the Antakarana. I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. Well, he's a radionics guy, so, you know, they're big into vibrational assisted pictures. I think that it's very interesting. In here, in this book, if you want to look through it, he has he really has gone to the end of the earth and stuff that I don't fathom. I think I'm a little bit in explaining some of this stuff, but he says that this is the radiation coming off of the top of an Antakarana symbol. You know, this whole book deals a lot with that Antakarana stuff. It goes through electron spins and bond polarities. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Now, he goes through how this is supposedly representative of a cube that's in the center of the Earth that Japanese scientists have found. Here's the cover of the magazine we found it in. I mean, just stuff that's way outside the bounds, you know, of anything that I could really look up. I do know this, though, that if a black and white Antakarana is so bad, then it's interesting that it's published in the book in a lot of places. There's a thread of common sense here for me, you know. I can't necessarily research any of the other stuff, but this makes sense a little bit, you know. So I can't believe that it's necessarily too bad if it's published, chucked all throughout this book in a black and white format. So that's one thing to keep in mind with the Antakarana if you're using it.
He does sell these in the colors too.
He does sell these. Let me see if I can find that. I'm sure there's an order formula. Two sizes, 10 by 10 and 21 by 21 inches. And the prices are $150 for a 10 by 10. Oh, wait a minute. I have an update. There's an update. Now he makes them 11 by 11 and 20 by 20. And $150 for 11 by 11 and 20 by 20 is $360. Both include instruction manuals, which he sent me, and which was fascinating. So, you know, I think it's okay, consequently, to Xerox and pass around black and white. Other things that come out of Arthur Robertson's school are that he says that you should only do distant healing for 15 minutes, never more, never, ever, ever. Also, you should always visualize the symbols in purple, in violet, no matter what. He has some other interesting things like, he has a deer exercise from Taoism in the back and stuff like that. How many times have you seen this illustration copy? No? I mean, the man is the seat of a lot of things. Okay, Hanja Zeishonin is Chinese, but even the Chinese cannot read the lower third of the symbol, probably as he uses it, probably because it was changed. This is the master key known only to some masters. The top third is related to on or understanding, and also a person with a smile. The bottom third relates to living and food. The bottom is highly stylized form of writing relating to the Adeptus Majors in the Master Teacher Certificate, relating to the bridge between two roads. The Tibetan Antakarana, the exact definition is given to the Adeptus Majors in the Master Teacher Certificate. Adeptus Major, that's an interesting term.
Golden Dawn.
Yeah, it's straight out of the Golden Dawn. Or really, just about any magical tradition. It comes out of Crowley in that school. Let's see. And it's odd because most people that practice magic will never make it to Adeptus Major. Most people spend the rest of their lives toiling away underneath the paperwork of Adeptus Minor. I mean, they give you like, the Golden Dawn schools give you like 2,500 pages on tarot alone. It quiz you on it vehemently. And that's just one tiny problem. So, the symbol is the quote-unquote ether tube connection for sending distant healing energy to those in need, wherever they may be. Sending time for distant healing is limited to 15 minutes at all times. Any or all of the above described symbols may be used hands-on or in distant healing practice. This is another interesting thing that he says. About the Hui-Yen point. You will find a diagram of the Hui-Yen connection on the next page. Always follow the instructions for the Hui-Yen when practicing hands-on or distant remission. The orbit of the governor channel and the functioner channel, which is the microcosmic orbit in Taoism, if your master didn't cover that. When you contract the Hui-Yen point, which is it's like a Kegel exercise kind of thing for women. So it's a muscular contraction between your scrotum and your anus, or your vagina and your anus. Seals off one part, essentially connects those two channels. And there are two other breaks. One break is in the mouth, and the other break is the crown chakra. And so you can negate the break in the mouth by touching the tongue of the teeth, or touching the tongue of the bridge of the mouth just behind the front teeth. And then, it doesn't really matter about the chakra, because it's just feeding energy into the mouth. Let's see. The orbit of the governor channel must be connected for optimum results. Practice holding the Hui-Yen until you can attain at least a 15-minute time span. Don't try too hard as it will abort your intention with spans and disconnect. Imagine a cord connecting from the navel down to the Hui-Yen using your imagination along with your muscles. Lift, blah, blah, blah. Practice, practice, practice. He has a thing where he feels quite strongly that by not contracting the Hui-Yen point, you miss out on a very large portion, I forget the exact percentage, maybe 50%, 75%, something like that, of Reiki energy that you would be able to transfer otherwise. So that's another interesting point. Just, a lot of little interesting things here and there kind of stuff throughout all various stuff. Yeah.
But in Taoism, they consider that to be sort of a lock, that if you don't train it and you leave it open, the energy diffuses. Mm-hmm. So that's, obviously the connection there.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's real Taoist. Well, he's got deer exercise.
Mm-hmm. Could you explain again what it's connecting?
It's connecting. Oh, let's refer to this photograph that's been used by others. Here's something you don't see in a lot of Reiki books. That's periodic table of elements, yeah. Here in the body, down the front channel and up the back channel, you have two channels. Functional channel goes down the front, governor channel goes up the back. So that's what you're connecting, are those two channels of energy. They're main centralized channels. They're called the microcosmic orbit. So that's what you can kind of expect out of this little bent Reiki.
Now he contracts the Hui-Yen when he does distant healing.
When he does healing, distant healing, the whole 9 yards. So, again, I encourage you to look through this book. He has He has various mudras that he's incorporated in. Stuff like this. Yeah.
Going back to the microcosmic orbit, if anybody is interested in that, Montauk Chia, you might be familiar with, has really broken that down, and in his books he gives a very, very detailed description of the whole thing, along with his seminars.
Yeah, and Montauk Chia, oddly enough, studied with Kathleen Miller.
Really?
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting. And he's no slouch. He has some great books out. I think his new one is called Awakening Healing Light Tao or something. It's a pretty good-sized, big book, tell you just about everything you ever wanted to know. Reiki Master Spinal Therapy. This comes from the Robertson Ishikuro School. Everywhere you'll see it. It's been mixed and blended in a lot. These are 2 original pages, and I'm going to leave them up here for you to look at. This is another one of those hidden trademark kind of technique things. It's sort of like St. Michael's. Well, I didn't bring St. Michael's with me. I'm sorry about that, but I did bring the spinal one with me. So you have a little bit of trying to make up for it desperately here. This is a neat book. It's out of print, but if you can find it, I recommend buying it. And if you don't want it, you can always mail it to me, and I'll pay for it. Yeah, because I can stand all the copies I can find. This systematically covers just a lot of the different forms of energy and correlates them all. I mean, everything from Wilhelm Reich to radionics to pyramids is in this little tiny book. It takes about an hour to read. It's called Life Force: The Secret Power Behind Miracle Healing, Martial Arts, and Occult Magic by Leo F. Luzia. Published by Llewellyn.
Llewellyn, huh?
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, no.
LUDZIA.
Is it published?
Llewellyn. The ISBN number is 0-87542-437-6. It's an ideal introductory book to hand somebody that doesn't know anything about any of this, and thinks it's all kind of silly, because it's cross-referenced from so many angles that it's tough not to be a believer by the end of it. Plus, there's a lot of cool exercises in the back, including, guess what? The Chi Key stimulator looks a lot like Arthur Robertson's thing. Only instead of the spiral, he uses that dichotomy.
What did you say the name of that was again?
Life Force.
The author?
Leo Luzia. L-U-D-Z-I-A. So anyway, another book that I really like is this one. It's called Reiki in Everyday Living. And I haven't seen it in very many places at all. In fact, the only place that I have seen it is in Cincinnati, Ohio. But there's a bookstore that does a good job of ferreting out these obscure Reiki books. The ISBN number on this one is 1-880-357-07-0. And this is the lady that has those tapes of Takata teaching classes and stuff like that. And she's really put together a really, really nice book. So, the name of the book is Reiki in Everyday Living, and her name is Erlene, E-A-R-L-E-N-E, F, Gleisner maybe, G-L-E-I-S-N-E-R. Have you all seen these? These are from a gentleman from Australia. Named Mackenzie Clay. He has some interesting stuff in there. One of the things that I thought was very interesting was he was trained to start at the feet and work your way to the head. Is that a common thing, or are you trained that way? I was wondering if, other side of the equator, the water goes down the drain the other way. I don't know. It's a neat idea. I mean, I've played with it a little bit. And it does, there's a big difference in the energy. But
Therapeutic touch teaches that. The idea is to unblock the channel out.
that makes a certain amount of sense.
The chelations are done when you do that too.
I think that I like to treat from the head down, usually. Well, I treat real intuitive, really, but theoretically from the head down. Simply because that's really the place where